Well, it's something that affects many of our lives, but not something we often talk too much about, at least openly. It's about marriages ending. It's a widely held view that children of divorced parents are more likely to divorce as adults themselves. But is this really true? For more, let's bring in Belinda Bailey, love and relationship specialist. Welcome to Ticker News Today.
Hey, Adrian. Thank you.
So tell us about this space. What do you think we are missing? What are some of the misconceptions, would you say, when it comes to marriage and divorce?
Well, look, one of the things is that the belief that children of divorced families are more likely to divorce themselves actually comes from a really outdated and biased research from a time long ago when marriage was considered to be, essential for the fabric of society, and it was something that was only allowed between men and women, which is something that we're moved away from, thankfully. And the more recent and less biased research actually shows us that it's the percentage of children from divorced families versus the percentage of children from intact families that end up having these ongoing issues is basically the same. It's something like less than 2%. So what this means for us is that it's actually the level of parental conflict within a relationship that creates the ongoing issue, not divorce itself. So when families or marriages stay together for the sake of the children, they're actually creating more ongoing damage for the children than if they were to perhaps leave the marriage, especially if they could do so amicably, and put an end to that ongoing conflict, which would then less impact the children for their ongoing relationships as they grow older.
So after the initial glow of choosing a new partner, and sometimes that can wear off, it often seems, or at least people suggest, people end up in a relationship with someone like their mum or their dad. So is this true, and why does it happen?
Unfortunately, sometimes, yes, it is true. And this is because, look, in the first 7 years of somebody's life is when the majority of brain mapping occurs. Now, if you couple this with the fact that it's also when we have our first interactions with a member from the opposite sex, so a parent or a guardian, it stands to reason that this is when we create the majority of our patterns around what a relationship looks like. So we're then unconsciously drawn to situations to validate those patterns. So a lot of kind of self-reflection and self-exploration is necessary if people want to overcome those patterns, which of course a lot of people do.
So having worked with singles and couples for over 20 years, are there tips that we can use to break this divorce cycle? And do you think it's possible to come from a divorced family and still have strong relationships as an adult?
Oh, absolutely, Adrian. I mean, so many people who've come from divorced families go on to have happy and healthy relationships. And as I said, it really isn't the divorce, if you've come from a divorced family, that's the problem. It's the level of conflict within that family and how you felt about it. So if you want to break that divorce cycle, or indeed that high level of conflict that may continue in relationships, what's necessary is to first recognize what those patterns are for you, how you feel about them, and then take some steps to deal with those feelings. And some of the things that people can do about that is, I think most importantly, the first thing is to recognize what are those negative beliefs around relationship and marriage, and then look at some healthy ways to deal with conflict. And importantly too is to seek out harmonious relationships and start to model those.
So let's talk about the divorce rate and how that can affect millennials. It seems perhaps less likely that they will consider marriage because they're seeing a large number of people ending theirs. So do you think this is okay, and could it have a trend that might impact society moving forward if millennials choose not to marry?
Yeah, look, we are seeing a little bit of a trend like that, and it can be a shame because a lot of research, Harvard University has shown us that having a healthy relationship is extremely important to a person's overall sense of health and well-being. So marriage itself seems to create a little bit more commitment for people to see it through those kind of tough times. So if we start to see less and less people getting married, we're going to see less couples reaping the benefit of that deepening and growing love that really only comes from enduring through those difficult times. Because look, especially now, it's just so easy to throw away the old and kind of bring in the shiny new thing. But what people don't realise is that they take themselves and their patterns into the new relationship too.
Hey Belinda, great to chat. Thanks for your time today on Ticker News. Where can we learn a bit more about your work?
Come and visit me over at my website, belindabailey.com. Thank you for having me too, Adrian.
Thanks so much. We'll talk again soon.